Hello, hello, hello. Nice one. We have Amy on the technicals.
And on the laughs and giggles.
On the technicals today.
Ambience.
And Amy, please check on your computer sometimes to make sure it's working. But yes, everybody, today we have guest James Aston.
And in your style, I'm going to say, hey-o!
So this is 2 meters is what this is.
Yeah,
This is
COVID secure, as
a
they say.
COVID secure jam site. Yeah. So this was put together fairly last minute, and James agreed to come and have a catch up. So
Yeah, a bit of a glutton for punishment, as they say. And yeah, you're going to invoice me for this, or I'm going to invoice you. How's it going to work this time? There's a story.
you'll be getting an invoice. James played on one of my records once, and he still hasn't paid me for the privilege.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm going to have to pay for the privilege of appearing tonight, having travelled an hour and a half to get here after being up from 6 o'clock in the morning, teaching all my little kiddies.
You can angle that slightly more if you want. Yeah. But
Is this better?
so how have you been?
Good. Things have changed gear in the past couple of weeks, obviously, as things are opening back up again. I'm back teaching guitar in primary schools. Nice to see the kids again. But the gigs haven't come back. So
No.
I'm still, like without purpose, musically speaking. We were mega busy before, doing the restaurants and the weddings
Yeah.
and bars and that. Hopefully that's going to come back relatively soon.
Yeah, this has been weird because James has been here for like a few hours, but every time we've started a conversation, we've said no, don't talk, because then we won't have anything to say on the show.
I think because I haven't seen you in face to face in a year. I think since our wedding.
Wow.
Yeah, and so there's a lot to catch up on, which is nice. That means
It is.
we've got a ton.
But what is new with the boat?
New, yes. So we look, for those of you who don't know, we actually live on the canal, not in the canal, on the canal in a boat. Many of you won't know. Actually, we've been doing this for me and my now wife, have been doing this for 6 years, coming up to 7. We're on a third boat, bigger and better each time.
They keep sinking.
They keep sinking. Can't stop the water coming
It's
in.
a turbulent Thames.
Yeah. Well, we're not on the Thames. We're on the canals. But we can go on the Thames. That's just another level of fear that we're not
Do you have
quite
to pay
ready.
to go on the Thames?
You need to take a course in order to be able to radio for help, basically. Yeah.
See, the thing is, a lot of people don't even know. It took me a long time. I think probably because of you, I know about the canals.
Yeah, I think I was the same actually. When I first moved to London, I was living in southeast London in Brockley, and yeah, like you don't think of it as a thing.
It's a huge system as well.
Yeah, but as a leisure activity and for exercise, they're really very very popular actually.
And
we all live on them now, as it's the only affordable way to live in London. So
this is what I was going to say. Is it?
No. You can. It depends to what standard you want to live, because you can live in essentially a floating shack if you like, and maybe if I was without my wife, I would be doing that. But
You definitely would.
I know, yeah.
It would be like a surfboard and a tarpaulin.
Yeah, and on a serious note, there are the canals. Some people living on the canals, this is one step away from being homeless. And obviously there's the other end of the spectrum where, you get boats coming in every other week now that are, 200, 300,000 pounds, palaces, floating palaces. But that's a big part of my life now, and actually a very healthy part of my life. Taking a little bit of the focus away from music, steering it back, steering the tiller back towards music. Yeah, I think it was a very healthy move for me to move on to a boat. It allowed me to put some focus into other things, because you know what we're like as guitarists. We need somebody to take us away and give us a bit of perspective.
You have the guitar bug more severely than I do, I think.
That's something.
But I guess when we first met, I very much had the guitar bug, and then
Well, you were like when we first met. You were in high diploma. Well, we're both in high diploma. Did you do the year before?
I did, yeah.
So I came to ACM, and like and obviously, you know, with your housemates, you go to the boiler room. And for those of you who don't know, the boiler room it's where you go to see live music if you're at the ACM. I wonder if that's still the case. Maybe not now. Anyway, you were there like this god in a way, with the command of all these musicians. And I remember thinking, because obviously I knew of you before you knew of me. I remember thinking, all right, who is this guy? Like, obviously he's the guy. He is he's the guy at ACM. All the musicians are doing what he wants, and quite intimidating, I'll be honest. And here we are.
I remember one of the first memories I have of you is I was in class and I was playing, and you said, "Nice guitar pickups. What pickups is that?"
Oh, no.
And I said,
"Is that your red Strat?"
It was a black one. I just said,
right, yeah.
It's just the fingers.
Wow. Yeah, and yeah, and in a way that kind of that did sum up your kind of approach to ACM at the time. It was like, you know, and that personality and persona was quite very attractive, actually. You know, it was nice to see somebody with that like level of courage and charisma. There was a lot of charisma there.
I think what's happened with me though is kind of like I started out being like a shy person, really. Like, so the first half of my life, like if we break my current life into three, the first third I was very shy, and then I got into playing guitar and writing songs.
You were a cellist as well.
Yeah, I played cello first, and then writing songs. Being creative is the key. Like, I think that's where we might differ, which we'll get into. Is that, not saying you're not creative, but that I think that I think that you have maybe more respect for the craft of an instrument.
That's very much the way my mind works.
Then I don't, and maybe I don't as much, because I was playing cello and stuff, but I, you know, I was like always wanting to write music, always like, but what am I saying? What's, you know, what's, you know, nowadays it's a bit unfair that in the music industry, what I do is called the artist, and what the other people do is called
it's like separated.
It's been separated, which is unfair to say guitarist and artist, but it is an important distinction, maybe with the unfair wording, that it's almost like engineers and architects. Yeah, like you need people.
Well, the musicians and session musicians, people who study the craft, I would consider them to be, like you say, like an engineer. You know, they're focused.
Craftsman, tradesman, almost.
Exactly, a tradesman. Yeah, they're focused on the nuts and bolts and the technicalities of their instrument and what they do. Whereas what you do is a little bit more broad spectrum.
I think Amy has the levels on the receiving end. So I think I always enjoyed this trade of playing an instrument or something, but it was always, I had to first be told what's the point of it.
Yeah, okay. So it wasn't like playing for the sake of playing.
It's not an end. Mm-hmm. So as I've gone into other things, when I got more into the Chris Cape era, or the Cape era as I will now rebrand it, it was all about this kind of Ziggy Stardust-esque persona, and I would get as excited as what I'm going to wear, as you know, like right. But mainly it's about the creation, and if guitar fits into that creation, then great. But because I happen to be best at guitar in terms of instruments and stuff, it will always have a more special place for me. But it's also because it was the first time that I got interested in a skill that had a direct relation to, or got invested in a skill that had a direct relation to an end. So I got into Pink Floyd all these people.
You mean
like,
the guitar?
Yeah, and I wanted to do that.
Right.
And this gave, but when cello, it wasn't.
You saw no end. You saw no point.
No.
I can understand.
Well, but I had a current point, which I'm extremely grateful for, which is I got to go to a really good school as a result, because I was on a music scholarship.
Well, I mean, we could talk about music education, and and I feel like that I picked up the guitar because I wanted to, and if I was told to pick up the guitar and play the guitar, it would have been a completely different scenario. The first guitar I bought was from Cash Converters, and I bought it myself with my own money when I was a teenager. But
it makes a difference.
It makes a difference. That was my decision.
Same.
And I owned that decision.
Yeah.
And I still own it today.
You regret it.
Do I regret that? It's definitely set me on a path. My life would be very different without it, I'm sure.
Path of destruction.
Yeah, no, actually, I think it saved me.
Yeah.
But not without cost.
I think that it actually it appears to be ruining you, but only in the years where everyone else. Put it this way: if you get a normal job, you might love a normal job, so that's fine. I don't mean to sound condescending. If you get a job you don't like but is secure,
which I've had,
ultimately, that'll bite you. And if that bites you, and then you don't have something that you did on your terms before money was involved or something, you're in a more tricky position. So even though not guitar, but pursuing my own songwriting and recording project and the skills that came with that, even though it's produced financial loss actually over the course of many years, it's now that I'm getting a bit older, I'm like, thank goodness I did that, because it's actually, I've got this. It's almost like now, as the young angst fades a little bit, I'm left with this residue of skills.
Yes, and also I think we're better placed now, being a little bit older. I don't know how old you are, but I definitely know how old I am. I definitely feel my age right now. You can more objectively appreciate your skills, one's skills. I feel like, I'm less concerned about certain things I was concerned about even 5 years ago. This competitive element maybe, or putting undue pressure on myself to achieve some arbitrary standard.
I think for me the great journey with it has been, and it's covered in that song. Sorry about pointing. That's going to be rude.
Point away.
It's covered in that song that was on the show last week, The Day Could Not Come Soon Enough, which I know you like that song. In the lyrics, I don't mean to sound weird quoting my own songs, but often I write them to explore.
Yeah, of course.
My own feelings are best articulated in those songs. It's like I've documented how to say it, and I say, are my motives misaligned? Am I selfishly inclined? Or am I selfishly inclined? Are my motives misaligned for the purposes I claim to be mine? Has the time come and gone? Was I miming to a song written for me by the long list of names I sought to please? Yeah. And that verse is this change I've gone through.
Well, yeah, I mean, that particular line resonated with me, but it wasn't a whole list of names that I wanted to please. It was more about myself. So that list of names that I sought to please was actually just myself. There was standards that I set myself.
But the first half and the motives,
all the same. Yeah. Completely get it. I mean, there's a lot in this album that resonates with me as a musician.
I guess what I found interesting about this change for myself is how ununique it is in a way. My expression of it is my expression of it, but it's kind of like I watched the Taylor Swift documentary on Netflix, and like
same thing.
It's kind of the same thing, and like she's like super successful.
Yeah, but there are universal truths.
That's the thing. Yeah, but she's a similar age, and I think that there's something about that age that kind of like letting go of that first half, or that the rock star, the I have to do this because, and then you start to go, who am I serving? Who am I doing this for? Why? What are my motivations? Or the systems that you build for yourself have to fail you or something like that.
Yeah, basically that kind of, it's one of those two things. Yeah, that kind of failure or not achieving something, or a standard or whatever, a certain milestone by a certain age. The majority of us don't achieve that, and it takes hitting that to reevaluate, I think. And if you come out the other side of that and you're still a musician and you're still playing, then like you've got more to say, I think. But
then you really know you're in it for the long haul. Like I think part of it for me, I've made peace with it. When like the previous, I've always been sure I want to do it, but definitely there's been no doubt there. But I'm less at war with it. I'm not upset. I'm not desperate.
Is it less feverish?
It's less like if I release a song and not many people listen to it, it doesn't take away from the fact that I think it's a good song, or it doesn't change. It actually doesn't even change my opinion of it, or it doesn't. Maybe it does slightly, but it doesn't. I'm excited about the next song. It's like, oh well, I'm so excited I get to make another song, rather than going, oh, what's the point,
Yeah, I think it's a healthy place to be. It's kind of like, you can let something go into the world. It doesn't necessarily matter as long as you've put your all into it and you're happy with it at the time. That's your contribution.
What's interesting about the Taylor Swift documentary is that she totally made it.
Yeah, of course.
So if you look at Taylor Swift and me, maybe at similar goals, similar ages, we had similar goals. And for 10 years, she, from 17 to let's say 30 or whatever, I think we're kind of a similar age, me and her, but she achieved them commercially, and I didn't. And yet the end point is almost the same. Like when the internal end point.
You mean like where she is within herself?
And it's almost like if you don't achieve the things and you realize that those things don't make you,
well, you do, or you achieve them
and realize those things don't make you.
Yeah, okay. So the kind of path is different, but the destination is the same.
I'd take her path.
But you know what? I still think we're still very early on in our paths as musicians, I believe. And I think one thing I've learnt recently is to not define yourself by what you're doing right now. I am this now, I am that now. Well, in 5 years' time, you're probably not going to be that. You're going to be something different. And you're going to look back at yourself 5 years ago and say, why did you say that?
I think I made that mistake because there were points when I was doing stuff based on what I'd done a few years prior. But it's like, no, but this is what I do now.
I suffer that very badly.
Yeah.
This is why I'm saying it. This is therapy for me.
Where it's like, well, I'm in too deep now.
Yeah, it's like I can't. Yeah. Oh, there's that. I mean, if a friend of mine is watching, he would know exactly this. There's Yeah, it's almost as if like you can't now cut your losses because you're in too deep. But the sensible thing maybe would be to say, okay, we'll scrap the whole thing and start again. And there's a certain stubbornness involved in that. And that's my middle name.
Stubbornness.
It really is.
I didn't know that.
No, it's unfortunate, but
English
true.
name.
Yeah, English, yeah. Kind of generations.
But it's terrifying to tear it up and start again. Because I think that I think part of it is you go... I think so. The Taylor Swift thing is you make it and you say to everyone, so there, you see? And then you go, oh, well, I'm still me. Or you give up the project and you go, it kind of feels like you were right. It was never going to make it kind of thing.
But there's something humbling in that.
And that's brutal. But man, it's freeing.
Well, I would say that I think you and I, although our musical paths have been quite different, there have been a couple of similarities, quite notable similarities, I think, in that we have redefined how we do things on a number of different occasions.
Yeah.
Like in the styles of music we play and our approaches to different things. And right now I'm playing this style of guitar.
Which we can do now.
Which is, relatively, in the grand scheme of my life, this is still relatively new to me. So I'm learning a lot. And I had to, 3 or 4 years ago, everybody saw me at ACM as the jazz guy, and like 3 or 4 years ago, I put all of it in the bin.
But that was even for me kind of the second time this is the second time you've done it.
This is not, well, this is...
Because you were rocking.
Yeah, I went through a number of different phases. So I started off playing... Well, really, I spent my youth was playing rock, obviously, and, you know, obviously. Let's be honest, I grew up in Devon, and I had...
Your band was called Burn.
My band was called Burn, and so what... Exactly. So I did rock for a long time with my brother, and we had a great time doing that, and we released an album, and had some very minor success. And then went to ACM, and at that time I wanted to do jazz anyway. I just didn't know how to get into it. I was like,
but you started more like fusion here. You know?
I did, yeah. So my way into jazz was via fusion, which I think I probably should have stopped there.
Yeah.
You know, and then, but the way my mind works is it's like, okay, well, where can I go now? How can I take that further? And I'm just constantly just digging and digging and digging, and then, you know, I'm ending up in this like dark world of contemporary jazz where everything is.
We've lost a lot of good players to jazz.
Yeah, you know, everything is odd time signatures, and you know, and crazy harmony. You know, I ended up getting just really butt down about the whole thing, because there's never an end. The problem is with this contemporary jazz world is like, there are no boundaries. So where do you go? Like, okay, so you've got like 7 million doors to go through. Which one do you go through? You don't go through any of them. You just sit there. So that was the metaphor for where I was as a musician probably 4 years ago. And then
you found this new style.
And I found this new style, yeah.
Which is what?
Which is gypsy jazz. People know it as gypsy jazz, but really, I mean, I would probably call it jazz manouche. But
manouche
gypsy jazz
sounds, what's that, French?
Manouche is a tribe of you have Sinti and well, it's kind of synonymous with manouche, but they're a tribe of itinerant travellers or Roma people.
Roma.
Gypsies. It's a bit of a what's the word? It's not a term that I think is pejorative. It's a bit of a pejorative term, gypsy, but it's found its way into kind of common parlance, so I think it's kind of accepted. Anyway, so gypsy jazz. Where was I going with this? Probably made famous by Django Reinhardt and Stéphane Grappelli and the Quintet de Hot Club de France, which was a very popular swing outfit in the 30s and the 40s. But that kind of approach to playing long predates, you know, Django in this, you know, and the technique and everything. And I believe from my research anyway that the particular technique is actually borrowed from kind of Middle Eastern instruments, things like the oud.
With that thing.
Yeah, the risha.
Yeah,
they call it. I mean, there's a couple of different names for it, but they use a thing called a risha, and it's similar to the classical guitar technique apoyando, so where you pluck and you a rest stroke basically.
Okay.
So every downstroke, you land on the next string,
and then you pull it up.
Yeah, and that technique is, you know, you have to completely undo everything about the way you play guitar. So, yeah.
Well, James has sent me some chords which I learned. I'm gonna be honest.
Don't be honest.
I don't know what I'm doing here. So you can give me a little lesson.
Okay, fine.
We're doing the one in the D one.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Cocktails. Do you want to discuss the harmony at all?
Well, you said something to me on the phone the other day
about
do you know what I love about? I love. There's nothing better, and I mean this, than not knowing anything about something. Because you go from everything you learn is like. The first thing you learn is like a learning curve. It's like
it's amazing. It's a very.
I went from
feeling.
Knowing 0 to 100% more than I knew.
Yeah,
which was course. I don't know.
So you learned that D6/9 chord, right?
For the first time in my life, I played this chord.
Yeah. Which I find hard to believe that's the first time in his life he's played this chord.
It's true.
It can't be.
Spoke to Amy Walton, the great singer and jazz musician, and she said, "Really?" What?
She knows it.
No, she was also shocked that I'd never played this.
Right.
But this is the difference. I'm naughty with my guitar practice.
Oh well, you were just focused.
I don't do it.
Me neither now. We could talk about that.
Okay, so, and you've given me a plectrum to try, which I don't know if I've got the confidence to try the plectrum here.
I'll give it a go. We're among friends.
Okay, so you've said no major 7 chords, and that's all I've got to go on. So let's go. 1,
2,
1, 2, 3. Back to the top now.
Want to go?
You want to take the second off?
I'll take the bridge, yeah. Let's finish it.
Oh, it's so cool. You keep doing this. I kept hearing a cheeky little. Woo! That's so cheeky.
Man, it's interesting. It's interesting playing with somebody who hasn't played with this style before, because I can see like
The cogs turning.
Yeah, I can really see it. And I when I was first starting this a few years back, I was like, well, it's that, like you were talking about, that kind of that curve, the learning curve is so. It's an addictive feeling, isn't it? That
It's but you know what this thing is, as a musician, like I think if I could give, not that anyone's asking for my advice, but because the advice I give to myself is to embrace sucking at stuff.
To embrace sucking it.
Yeah,
it's
like,
a very hard lesson to take.
It's so key though, because it's otherwise you're just always in the comfort zone, and the thrill you get from trying something, like I have no idea what I'm doing with this.
Oh come on, you do know what you're doing.
But
there's a lot of knowledge in there that can be. Well, I mean, we can talk about the rhythm. I mean, it's your role as a rhythm player in this style is you're a drummer.
That's, you know what, there was a point when we were just playing now where it was meant to be D, and I was somewhere here. I went.
Don't matter.
I just hear.
That's what. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You bend.
Not really.
I can't. What's the head of this tune?
1, 2, 1, 2. And now we blag the bridge.
Do you blag it?
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, it's very simple.
It's quite busy though, isn't it? It's kind of.
I make it busy.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of,
I'm hearing this delay back now. That's nice.
Kind of soloistic, and you lent me this pick, which I didn't use that time. So
I'm still getting used to these picks. They're hench.
this is. Do you know what this is like a
bar of soap?
No, this is kind of like some of the offcuts from Stonehenge.
Yeah.
You know, the druids were shaping it like, better not let this go to waste.
When you say that, actually, there's some gypsy players do play with essentially rocks.
And this is so how. And the other thing I'm noticing is like, this is not a gypsy jazz guitar. This is.
I have a friend of mine who calls them guitars like that fring guitars because they make that sound. But we were discussing before we started this. You know, they have a particular purpose. Your guitar
for strumming.
I can't get that. Not with this guitar. It just doesn't work. It's missing. It's all. This guitar is all in the mids. There's not much in the highs.
There's no air.
There's no air.
There's no bottom air or top air. This is.
But that's how I like that. It's a very dry sound.
It's more. It's more melodically. It can cut maybe more.
Yes, I think in the context of a band, it cuts through.
Yeah.
And the way I've learnt to play, because I've done. There's a guy, Alexis, I play with a lot, and we've done a lot of busking. We've done a lot of gigs where we're acoustic, and the only way we're going to get heard is to play hard. And with this particular guitar, it's actually a very loud guitar, even by gypsy jazz standards, gypsy guitar standards. I tend not to have problems being heard.
I'm not struggling to hear. But you say the loud thing now, so
yeah. I do play hard.
I'm struggling like in that one jam now.
Yeah.
So when I restrung this other day because I hadn't played acoustic for maybe a year, except a few recordings here and there at home yet. But when I restrung it and play it, I probably would have, when I learned these chords for today, I was probably playing it about this volume. And then you
okay, well, all right, yeah. Well, there is. I mean, we can, if you want, maybe we can demonstrate that a little bit. There is. I mean, we could. But within this style, there are different ways of approaching the rhythm. So there is a style where
hear that. Would you ever use the hand? No. And you wouldn't do that?
Yeah, you can. I mean, there are probably not that. They're quite not strict. There are idioms. You know, it's a really, really simple genre, which is why I was attracted to this in the first place.
Gives you a framework.
There's a very definite framework, and there are certain things that you do and certain things that you don't do. There are certain voicings that you wouldn't play, and like you would never hear. You would never hear a minus that classic. Yeah, I mean, in another genre, that's what you want to hear. But in this genre, it would be probably a minus 6. You can get away with it,
but definitely not the major. That's definitely not it.
No. The 7s or 6s in this genre.
But you know, this is what
I wonder if we're losing a lot of people who aren't guitarists or musicians.
They logged off hours ago.
Yeah.
Okay. But
anyway.
A lot of times it's the same with like color palettes and stuff. It's what you put in, but it's equally what you actively avoid doing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like jazz guitar, you're not hearing that.
No.
You know,
yes. Okay.
You know what I mean? It's like if you hear that, it's a signal to go, oh, we've left the world.
Yeah.
So, but like, my world of I don't know, you know. Pink Floyd and Hendrix and stuff, you know, that's going to be a no-no. So there's none of that. But I mean, would you be frowned out the room, basically?
No.
You did the one bend, but you
would. Not that you'd be frowned out the room. It's just that you would.
It wouldn't sound like the genre it's meant to sound.
Yes, and And this is maybe one of the unfortunate things about this genre is that there are some people who are really quite protective.
I guess there is a role for that because it's like being
and actually
a preservationist.
I'm gonna say
you're one of them.
I am one of them. Yeah. So only because coming from a genre of music previous to this where like there were no rules and it's like you can do what you want as long as it kind of makes sense.
You've become the rule guy.
I've become the
You've gone from the hard left to the hard right of the guitar jazz world.
Wow, I mean,
give me rules.
Yeah, it's not rules. It's more.
I know what you mean. You want form. You want structure. You want to control. Yeah. Because then with a control, you can tell, am I doing well or not?
You can judge yourself by an empirical standard. You know, it's like, you're right.
And that's what I guess what a lot of people in my position, where we can develop madness. Where as a non-trades person, I guess when I haven't pursued a particular style, I'm trying to create stuff. It's so open that you can actually go mad because you're creating.
Well, that's exactly it. I didn't belong in that world. I feel.
So I have noticed like when I sometimes play a gig and I'm just not just in a negative way, but I'm being a guitarist for that night. There is a relief for me, you know,
because it's like you've got a role.
I've got a job.
Yeah.
Let me do that job.
Yeah,
for sure. Should we play another one?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for letting me play with you.
Well, thanks for agreeing to play with me.
I suppose there's also another thing that might drive you into a genre. Is that, which is very unromantic, what I'm about to say, but it's the practicality. Like you do live on a houseboat.
That's probably what we haven't mentioned that.
One acoustic guitar is easier than electric gear.
Yeah, it's so much easier. We don't have a ready supply of electricity. I mean, we have a supply, but it's finite.
Marshall stacks and pedals.
Yeah, exactly. It's a no-no. So it kind of all coincided with the time. You know, we moved onto the boat, and I was making changes in my life at the time anyway. So,
cool, man.
Yeah, it just kind of worked, and there's something about the style as well. Actually, it lends itself. It kind of works with the rhythm of the life on the canal. It's a romantic image to live on a houseboat, a canal boat, and play gypsy jazz. Yeah, you can think that.
Wrong tune.
Which one are we? Oh, of course, we're doing the. Yeah. 1, 2, 1, 2.
There we are. I saw that. Melodic mind now.
Whatever you like.
Oh.
There is actually a...
There it is again.
There we go. It's all about the energy. So what drew me to this style was the energy, and when you can deliver that, it's like that's a nice feeling.
It's so immediate.
It is
It's really immediate.
and
as
also
well.
anybody who's listening to that, like, I'm not saying that we didn't have any energy at the beginning, but like when you can actually get it into that gear, it's like a synergy. It self ignites. Does
that sort of tempo ramp happen quite often?
Yes.
Only with me. So you start.
No. In its tune, okay, but it's supposed to start and end at the same tempo.
Give or take.
However,
give or take 20 BPM.
However, if the energy is like, why not? Like, who cares? If there's somebody, if the audience are enjoying it,
you ramp it up.
I'm sorry, the tempo started at like 100, 120. It cannot move. Like. Just let it move, let it breathe. If it's like stuck, if it's sticky, then just let it be.
I like this chord you showed me before the session.
Oh yeah,
I was playing, but
oh yeah, that's
which
a nice one
I
too.
really like as well. Yeah. Which reminds me, I was going to mention this earlier, but then I wanted to save it. Did you ever play classical guitar?
Yes, because I teach classical guitar.
Okay, you teach. See, I never played classical guitar.
Right.
So I don't do so for those who want to know, classical guitar, you tend to have the thumb behind. I'm very much the school of hard rocks.
Yeah.
Thumb over the top.
Well, I mean, there are many instances in this style where, but generally, yeah, my thumb is behind.
Ah, okay.
But I didn't learn classical guitar. I learned rock guitar, and it just so happened that my left hand technique was actually okay. My right hand technique was awful for classical. But anyway, that's another.
See, I've never done the whole flat. But I feels like it would be much faster with a thumb behind.
I couldn't even do that. I mean, for me, it's essentially useless.
Yeah,
it's
of course. I'm saying, but with the, can you be faster with your thumb behind than the thumb?
No, I don't think so.
I think the thing is, the reason my thumb's over the top as well is also because of like the rock guitar thing is the vibrato, like bend.
Yeah, okay. You need the power.
So even when you bend, are you?
Well, I don't really bend.
Oh, you don't. You left that in your 20s.
Yeah, but my thumb is there.
Yeah. So see, I've never been able to. I think it's just. Also even for chords, it's handy, you know.
But I think it's difficult. It's important to remember that what we learn as guitarists or as musicians is a language, and if it's not a word, a musical word, then it doesn't exist. And people are unlikely to relate to it.
Yeah, exactly.
So this whole kind of like,
how can I play fast?
It's great. Is there a word that is spelled A B C D E F G H I J K L? There isn't.
It's called alphabet.
It's called the alphabet.
Yeah,
and we don't just play the musical alphabet. Like we have to, we're constructing words and sentences. And
exactly.
phrases,
yeah.
And it's like that kind of somebody might be able to play the chromatic scale really, really fast, but in what context? Like,
only in that context.
Only in that context. Yeah. So like,
very cool, man.
But I could talk a lot. I mean, a lot about technique, especially right-hand technique.
James is the guy that, for those listening, because I know that you
have been through it.
And also it's your primary pursuit.
Yes.
The guitar.
Yeah, I'm a guitar mechanic. Like the mechanics of guitar is something that fascinates me.
So I have had. You've also had your problems with wrists. So we both have wrist problems. I've had surgery on both wrists. Did you have a surgery? You thought about it?
No, they didn't. Well, they said we could go in and take. I had a cyst, like a ganglion cyst. That's since actually subsided since starting this style. Anyway, that's another thing.
But so I call you often. When I want to talk about, like, I'm trying to change my technique, but it's a night. I am a bit in no man's land at the moment.
Yeah, I feel like if you're going to do that, it needs to be. You have to go into it with the knowledge that you have to see it through. You can't do it half-heartedly.
Yeah.
So like if you're
then you end up in nothing.
Yeah.
I think it's also difficult because I play a lot of electric guitar. And then I'll play. Yeah. Then I'll do a.
Of course, yeah.
Little, and they're all entirely different.
And I think this is the problem with contemporary guitar as a subject.
And this is we talk about all the time.
Yeah, and we've spoken about this before. There's no like set pedagogy. There's no like, this style of guitar and the way we play this guitar, this type of guitar, the technique goes back, as I was saying before, to like the oud. And the rest stroke and the technique has been taught for
this doesn't
centuries.
Have that.
It doesn't have that.
No.
This is a Western guitar doesn't have that as such. Definitely the electric guitar doesn't have that because it's a new invention, and people are still trying to find their way. I feel like at the moment, within the last maybe 5 or 10 years, so we kind of missed it. But I feel like there has been a movement to set like a technique, an electric guitar technique. There are guys like Rick Graham, all these shredders, but they have fantastic technique. And the technique seems to be settling.
But what's funny is that I don't want it to settle.
Yeah, because then you don't get guys like Pat Metheny or George Benson.
Or Rest in Peace.
Or Van Halen.
Eddie Van Halen.
Exactly.
Or Hendrix. Or like what I find fascinating about guitar is that if you look at like any kind of top 10 rock guitarist of all time.
Yeah.
If you look at Gilmour, Hendrix, Brian May, Jeff Beck. They're all of them, Mark Knopfler, Jimmy Page, they all have entirely different techniques from each other.
Yeah. Well, I would say that this is an electric guitar specific thing. I think one is more able to express their own personality. This is a controversial thing to say, but I think one can express themselves a little bit more on a personal level on an electric guitar because it's more
malleable.
It's more forgiving of a variety of techniques because you're not relying on the power. You're not relying on bigger muscles to create
the physicality is less of an issue.
It's completely different. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really want this to turn into like a guitar clinic, but and I'm wondering if everybody appreciates that. But this is how my mind works anyway.
Is it? Okay. Yeah.
We're getting cues from Amy.
Moving on.
Yeah.
So I have a song out on Friday, which we can play now, and so Amy's just gonna get it going there. So just mute our mics in a second, Amy, just while I'm talking. So this song is out on Friday, and it's gonna be a very big change now from what we were just doing. But I've got a song out this Friday, and I will be sharing it across whatever platforms I can, but the link should be in the description of this video. We're going to play it now, and then we're going to have a chat about it. And James has heard it, so he can pitch in with some of the convo. Go for it, Amy.
let it pass away. The wounds of several lifetimes welling up today. Go to sleep in the arms of understanding while we weep for the broken and still standing. It seems all the left behind are here as love moves through the pews of fear. All of God's people gathered near, making the incarnation clear. It seems all the left behind are here as love moves through the pews of fear. All of God's people gathered near, making the incarnation clear. Making the incarnation clear. Your crying wife, lost and found in tears, is making the incarnation clear. Making the incarnation clear.
Hey everybody, we're back, and that was Making the Incarnation Clear. Maybe you can just turn your
So I've heard this song. You were kind enough to show me this song in advance, and I've heard a lot of your pieces, especially the Chris Willow tunes, and with the others I found it like it's I could get behind the lyrics.
Yeah.
You know, there are metaphors in there that for me were relatively accessible, but with this tune, I feel like there's something quite deep going on. Tell me what you mean by like incarnation. So I understand incarnation to be like the embodiment of a deity, and you know, and there are lots of obviously this song it's particularly there's a religious element to this song. Am I right? Yeah,
maybe.
But what I'm saying is, I think there's something in this song.
What I find sometimes writing, if you write something, I don't think that I'm an abstract writer at all. Like I don't write ideas that are like, that he could be saying anything. It's like I sometimes it might be received that way, which is great because then everyone can put their own meaning to it. But I tend to be, as a writer, very specifically writing about something often, even if it doesn't come across.
Right. So there's.
And sometimes that makes it seem more intriguing. Because it's almost like the reverse of dramatic irony, you know, when the audience is in on it, but the character doesn't know what's happening.
Yeah.
It's the reverse when you know that the singer really knows what's going on.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
But you don't know what's going on.
It's like there's something that you're not telling us explicitly, You know, it's yeah.
But this is the kind of the most tricky song on the album in terms of sensitivity, and I wrote it to document a funeral that I went to.
Right. Okay.
So that's it, basically.
Yeah, right.
It's a specific funeral.
Yeah.
For a specific person, and the experience I had at that funeral.
Yeah, I mean, there's the line, obviously, "Rest in peace," and there are some other pretty heavy lines in there as well.
So I went to this funeral that was really intense because the person involved, and I called some people to check up if it's okay to share this stuff because I didn't want to upset anyone. I can keep it fairly vague, but basically a family member who died and had suffered abuse quite heavily and then had caused abuse.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
There was just so much pain around this individual.
Yeah.
So much pain had been put on them, and they had caused pain and had lived in extreme poverty and basically like semi-homelessness for years and severe alcoholic, and I felt that the funeral, this is going to sound like a really crass thing to say, but if there's something called success at a funeral, this was it.
It was a successful funeral.
That's what it is, because the person that had caused, I guess, the majority of this person's pain, the father, had died a few months prior.
Right.
And his funeral, to use the crass term, was less, there wasn't a funeral because there weren't enough people who loved him to come. So, but this is all in my family, so it was quite intense because we had a little memorial, but there's so few of us. And this guy, who then the song's about, came there to the funeral, and I hadn't seen him in a long time. And he, was extremely thin and had used some of the inheritance money to buy a suit, and was there with his brown paper bag, and it was very. And then I saw him weeping, and then like a few months. It feels like months. It could have been a year, but it was relatively soon. He died, then his funeral there. But he had a proper funeral at a church, and it was like well attended.
Yeah. And
it was such a weird experience to be like, everything was against this. It was kind of like in our society. Our society it seems all the left behind are here. Because in that congregation were the local troubled people. They were. Okay. I could smell liquor.
Right. Yeah.
In the room, and that's not metaphorically speaking.
You could
literally and it was actually so moving to see the tears of people. I was like, this is amazing. Like it's almost like how irrelevant, not irrelevant, but what's the word? How much less those social reputation, social standing, success in earthly terms, how little that can stand against love, basically. You know what I mean? It was just like. So I felt like there was this sense that through the pews of fear, it was because it's a room, there's so much hurt, there's so much this, there's so much that, more so than a usual funeral, because of the circumstances of the life, of his troubled life, and that there was such love moving through the pews of fear, and then it was making the Incarnation Clear, which is that line, this is potentially theologically controversial for me to say this, but because it's not, I guess, traditional theists or Christians will probably bristle a bit at what I'm about to say, or bristle a lot, which is that in Christian theology, Jesus is the incarnation. He is the deity made flesh.
Yeah.
And that room, I saw something, and at that funeral, and as I carried the coffin with some other people to the car, which I I don't think I knew I was going to be until on the day. It was like
wow.
And then I saw the left behind grieving wife crying, that I saw something on that day that I have since retroactively understood to be a sense of the incarnation in everyone, collectively held in that moment.
Wow, that's quite heavy. And how did that manifest?
So I just felt that it's kind of like almost like there's this particle, like the Christ particle or whatever, that is in matter itself. It is in life itself, and it kind of, when everything hits the fan, there's this extra gear that people can go to of compassion and acceptance that they didn't even know they had. But it happened almost collectively. It's almost like the positive version of mob mentality.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where there's like a deep connection and understanding and compassion and empathy that just like any conversation about don't worry about that for now. Any tricky grievance,
put aside,
grudge, that's not for now, So that's what the song's about.
Man. Well, it's beautiful on obviously a number of different levels now I realise, but I particularly like the way it's recorded as well. I like the lullaby-esque entrance to it. It's although it's a heavy subject, it comes in really light.
That was recorded in this room on a piano, with these two mics that we're talking with, actually. He says as if he's got like loads of mics. These are my two mics. And I'd first recorded it on guitar.
Okay.
And then I played it. I thought about doing it on piano and played it on piano as well. And Amy also thought it sounded better on piano. I think, do you know what it is as well? Is that I grew up in a church context where there's an upright piano in every church.
Sounds like a church, man.
It's too classic.
Yeah, it's got that vibe.
That's it. So when I played it on the with the creaky stool, and a few notes out of tune on the piano, I was like, this is the vibe.
Yeah, definitely.
It was actually, I'm not much of a pianist, so it was, and I found it more difficult to play. Then, like on the Lava Kiss record, there were some more advanced piano parts that I found easier to play, and I think it's because this is so slow that it's like gang. It's something about it's so
deliberate,
that any little wrong voicing or something,
for sure. That's hard. Yeah, I understand that. Actually, where it's like, this is what it has to be, and this is where it has to be.
And what's also interesting is there was background noise and stuff like crazy, but it was actually raining on the day. And I can hear it, and people probably can't tell, but there's an atmosphere on the track because it's.
I didn't notice.
But yeah, you don't notice it. But I think it's there, and I think if my memory serves me right, and I think I've heard it when I was mixing it, but it just gives it this kind of gloomy, cheap upright in the town hall.
Yeah.
Feel.
Well, yeah. I think it as a canvas for the content of the lyrics, it's very nice. It frames it very well.
And I think part of these records have been about. Part of my change has been about stripping back, because when I learned to produce records, that kind of takes over, and then you get so into polishing stuff and making it sound amazing and a million layers and this soundscape. But part of these records have been, part of the mission has been one accompanying instrument and lyric focused.
I got that straight away, actually. So I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's like, here's me and another instrument, and let the songs do the speaking. Yeah,
and I think once again, like, leaving stuff out is key. If you put something else there, they don't hear what you want them to hear. People don't.
It's a distraction.
It's a distraction. Yeah. So, and also I left stuff like I'm not the best singer in the world, and if I sing a bit flat or sharp on a note, I just like it's. I want these records to be a document of the song. That's and an authentic performance from me.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's that. And also the album cover, which I really like. A church up the road let me use their church. They've got these non-traditional stained glass windows, so it's not like a scene. It's just colorful blocks.
Yeah.
And they, I wanted to get in to shoot the cover, but they weren't open. So I took a chair, and I was standing on a chair outside their church, taking it through one window to get the other one. And then people started arriving, and like this church staff started arriving, and they're like,
"What's going on here?"
Exactly.
And then the police arrived, right?
It was pretty much like that, you know. And so what's it? No, it's fine. And yeah, so then I eventually got that shot. Actually, Amy, you can put it up. Just put the black screen on first there. So we're just going to show the picture here. So this was what ended up being the final picture. So eventually they let me. They actually let me inside the church.
Yeah.
And I got that shot.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, you put the text on, but yeah, there was a lot of me standing outside looking extremely suspicious.
Yeah.
I think I was probably in my pajamas or something taking photos through the
Oh
window.
no, he got another one.
Yeah, another one. They're here every week, I tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, but yeah, thanks for that, Amy. Yeah, so that's that song. And everybody, it's out on Friday. And also new this week, I have an Instagram account at Chris Willow. And you can follow, I think it's on private, so I'd have to okay you, but I will okay you. Just click follow there, and I will start to share some stuff there. I'm not that much of a social media guy.
You could have... Yeah, I mean, that surprises me.
That I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not on social media either, but I would have thought you were all over that.
I think, it's just in the quest of authenticity.
Yeah.
And I find... But I guess it depends what I share. So I'm going to try and share actually what I'm doing, which is making music. So, and, not like egg avo breakfast.
Yeah.
Living my best life.
Oh, wow.
But
yeah, there's enough of that.
Anyway, you guys have been great. Yes, at Chris Willow on Instagram. If you enjoy the show, please consider buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Chris Willow. You can check out the website, chriswillow.com. This is James Aston, my friend and guitar extraordinaire, the maestro.
Yeah, and who are you going by now?
Chris. Just Mr. Chris.
Mr. Chris. Mr. Chris. Should we do another piece then?
Yeah, we'll play it out.
And then Amy can just fade us out heroically.
Amy, you can just cut to black when you've had enough of the jam. But thank you, man. I appreciate you coming.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Far away.
It's always
To
fun.
be on the show. And do you have anything you want to share? Or?
No. just I'll emerge occasionally as I do.
There's no gigs to promote right now.
Out of the woodwork.
That's the problem.
No, there's no. I don't promote them anyway.
You guys have some people coming around? Yeah. People coming down to see you tonight? Yeah, sure. I was gonna say, I'm not sure about...
New strings, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sound even worse for the genre, I guess, new strings, don't they? again. Stop.
Bridge.
Okay, so.
Nice. Oh, thanks.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, James Aston.
Cheers.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, 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 thank you.